Again, welcome everybody. This is Pete Erickson with Modev, and we're excited to have our guests at today's webinar, Avaya and Carolyn Laffan-Miller. She's going to be presenting today. Let me just tell you a little bit about Carolyn. She's got a deep telecom background, having served in engineering and solution and management roles at Avaya, Lucent, and AT&T. You might know those companies. Carolyn uses her deep experience in engineering and business engagement to really help drive the solutions forward. And, you know, all of us are pretty familiar now with conversational AI. Well, this is a coming together of a lot of legacy technologies and new technologies, and Avaya is on the forefront of that. Carolyn is the director of their Executive Briefing Centers, which you're going to hear about, but that's where you can imagine the possible and bring it all together. So Carolyn, background in engineering from Stevens Institute of Technology, great school right there on the river, and her MBA in marketing and finance from NYU Stern School of Business. She brings the engineering and the business acumen together, and we get to enjoy that today. So I'm going to turn it over to Carolyn to take it away, and we look forward to this presentation, Carolyn. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks so much, Peter. Hey, everyone. I'm Carolyn Laffan-Miller. So I'm from New Jersey. That's where I'm located. And our premier customer experience center is in New York at One Penn Plaza. That's our flagship location. I love getting engaged with customers. It really makes things fun, right? We get to talk about solutions, their strategy, the challenges that they're trying to solve. And I've been in the contact center realm for a long time now. There's been so many different roles that I've had. Love getting engaged in this area. And Peter, you were talking about surfing. I do have a beach house down at the New Jersey shore, but the waves aren't that big. You know, they get a little bigger when we go towards the fall. I'm not exactly an avid surfer. I can get out there, but I prefer when they're a little smaller. So to give a little bit of background on Avaya, right? Many of you may know us from a telephony perspective, but a huge part of what we do is around AI, omni-channel applications, and really looking at how we can impact that customer experience and then the agent experience, supervisor perspective. How can we holistically look at ways to solve business challenges and make that much more effortless as we go from start to finish? Before we kicked off, Peter and I were talking a little bit that our applications include both contact center experiences, unified communication, and user applications. We've got our meeting services around Avaya Spaces. And a huge focus around delivery from the cloud. And we make those applications composable. So I gave an example to Peter that in our Spaces meetings, for example, customers could take pieces of our Spaces solution and compose those into their customer journey or into their collaboration scenario. So I started mentioning, apologies, what Clemson University is doing, utilizing Avaya Spaces, but they're integrating it into their learning management systems and taking our components and making it very much into a Clemson application. So it's not about just downloading our solution, but being able to use those widgets and scenarios in a very open framework. That just gives you a little bit of background from a company perspective, but a huge focus here around contact center and customer journey. So as we start to get into the session, where we'll really focus is around AI experience. And what I'll do is I'll get into a storyline. So we look at an example for a customer, Chris, an agent, Annie, and a supervisor, Susan. And we'll look at things from that customer experience point of view, and then the agent and supervisor experience. And we'll look at how we can help augment those engagements to make it much more intuitive and look at the best ways of applying AI throughout those scenarios. And then I've got a couple of customer examples that we'll share. And then as you guys are asking questions, in the chat, I'm sharing my screen full screen. Peter and Jamie will prompt me if we need to stop in the middle for some questions, and we can also tackle a bunch of questions, towards the end as you guys would like. This time is really for you, and I hope that you get a lot of value from it. So when we think about powering AI experiences, our product set is our Avaya One Cloud platform, and that helps power an AI-infused dimension for customers, really connecting and orchestrating everything across the customer journey in terms of voice, video, chat, messaging, social media, and look at that CRM integration, the right details. What do we know about the customer? What are they trying to do? And how do we make that much more fluid and much more dynamic? Really, the key is defining and applying AI in the moment and doing it at the speed that the customer's moving. Now, if we consider how much the world has changed, it's much more so in the last decade than any previous, just kind of setting the context here. And what's happened is we've gone from tons of mobile applications to really, with the pandemic and post-pandemic, changing how people shop, changing how they order food and they eat, how they access travel, changing what everyone does with fitness, right? I'm focused on my apps and getting getting the high five from my husband, from my sister-in-law, from my friends as we work out. Social media, learning, right? All of these things have changed. It's created this whole idea of an experience economy. It's all about the way that I'm consuming those applications. And then if we start to consider the customer, right? The customer wants kind of everything at the same time. They want to be connected, but they don't want to feel like you're harping on them. They want to be left alone to a degree. They want to have equal treatment, but they also want you to understand their account, their value to your business, or as a patient, as a client. They want to have kind of expected interactions, and they want you to surprise them with unexpected ways of meeting their needs, and make this really full-featured and effortless. Don't make them learn all of these different steps to try to figure out how to engage with you. Now, if we look at the technology, consider how AI can take that experience to a whole new level. Now, there's been things like self-service has been around forever, but not always in the way that customers would like. So how can we make self-service and engagement much more seamless? Make it intuitive, make it easy. And then when we think about the employee, we want to provide smarter collaboration, and consider that humans can't be everywhere, and that agent can't be everything to the customer. But if we start to power those experiences with AI, it can make a dramatic difference. And almost think about AI as the fourth dimension of communication. So you've got voice, video, messaging, and AI all working together. And we don't want the customer to feel like they're trapped in AI. We're using AI technology to make everything smarter, make it easier, make it more seamless, and then get them to the right resources in the moment so we can help solve their need, or let them finish that purchase, or get them to the right caregiver. So if we start to look at AI before, during, and after an interaction. Before the interaction, you think about customer profiling, and that may be reaching out proactively to the right customer or the right patient. What information do we have? And make this a full 360-degree process so that as we're gathering insights and voice of the customer and understanding their interactions, it helps us be much smarter around that customer engagement. So let's say that customer is calling in to the contact center. And I'm going to share an example in retail coming up, but let me share a scenario in healthcare. And this kind of mirrors a health customer I was just working with last week. And in their case today, they're doing outbound notifications around collections and around bill pay. And then they also are supporting them on inbound, but these things are all fractured. So they've got silos all over the place. So let's say we've got that customer calling in, or sending an SMS, or it's a web chat, whatever it may be. Let's leverage a virtual agent and understand all of the different things they might need to do. In this case, it could be, hey, a reminder, you have an overdue bill of X number of dollars, and how can we help you today? Well, I might not want to worry about that bill right now, but I'm getting the reminder in my ear. Maybe I need to check on my upcoming appointments, and I'm driving, 2 hands on the wheel, street legal, and I can hear that my next appointment coming up is on Tuesday, but now I'm worried about my timing, and I want to reschedule that. And what else would be available? What else would be the next open? There's times on Thursday at 5 o'clock. Perfect. I could do all of those interactions with an AI virtual agent without speaking to an agent, if that's what that health system wanted to do. If for some, it might be if I'm scheduling a mammogram, they might want to use automatic scheduling. For others, if I was rescheduling with a cardiologist, they might want to get me to an agent, but then give that agent all of the information that they need to know about me. If I was a patient who was recently discharged from the cardiac care unit, instead of getting me to someone in patient access, get me to someone on the physician assistant team that's part of the CCU, because I'm within a certain amount of time of discharge, and we're getting all of that from their electronic health records, from Epic, from Cerner, from whatever they Meditech, whatever they might be using. And then after the interaction, we're capturing that conversation, the disposition, we're understanding their NPS score, we're understanding their sentiment, we're utilizing machine learning so we can get many more insights about that customer interaction. And hopefully that all makes sense, kind of level setting. So if we look at an example for the customer journey. So now I've got my cast. I've got a company that we're going to call Beyond Retail, Sporting Goods, and Adventure. And we've got Chris as our customer. We've got Annie as our agent and Susan as our supervisor. So Chris is on his favorite company's website, Beyond Retail. He's researching kayaks, and at an appropriate point in that research, he gets a pop-up, he's invited to chat. So the virtual agent is answering Chris's initial questions and then detects that they're starting to get more complex. And so we elevate to Annie to get some expert assistance. So Annie receives the web chat, and she's getting that web chat in a single pane of glass, a modern agent workspace. It's giving her the full journey details so she can understand how Chris has engaged with Beyond Retail and gets contextual information about Chris. the appropriate CRM screen pops, and whatever knowledge management is going to help Annie through that interaction. And a key example is as Chris is asking questions, we're popping up templated responses to Annie in her workspace so that she can very quickly click on the right responses, right? It's saving her time and effort. It's also keeping those according to, company standards. Annie could also quickly locate and share rich media. In this case, it's a Kayak quick reference comparison doc and customer reviews, because some of Chris's questions come back to, I'm looking at these different kayaks. I want to understand, I've got an upcoming trip with a class 3 waterway. I've also got some other, family plans, and we live near a lake, or we live near a bay, etc. So we're giving Annie all of the right relevant information to help Chris through that dialogue. But now as Chris gets into more technical questions about kayak materials, about hull type, Annie now offers that she can call Chris directly. So all part of the same engagement. Annie is simply clicking to call Chris. It's part of that, it's seen as part of that same conversation. So we're leveraging all of the information that Annie has at her fingertips. But now at the same time, so think of the chat, right? We're looking at the chat, we're looking at that verbiage, we're letting AI provide templated responses. Now, when we get into the conversation, we're utilizing transcription, and I'll talk a little further about how we're providing different cues to Annie and utilizing machine learning to really understand what's happening start to finish through that transcript. Now, Chris has been happy with all of the information he's received, and he's given him what he needs, and he completed his online purchase. So Annie and Chris finished the call. Now the transcript gets automatically added to the CRM record and automatically added to customer journey. Now, I hope this doesn't get in the weeds, but you could also define how much of that you want. So let's say this was a long call. Maybe we're not bringing in, right, every word into the mix, into CRM. Maybe it's only all of the intents and the summary. And what you'll see as we talk through this, there's also a big impact here. As Annie is talking with Chris, instead of being focused on, typing away, and trying to listen to Chris and type and annotate at the same time, she can be very focused on that discussion, and we can be very tuned into the information that we need to have her, to help her support him as a customer, to help do her job as an agent. And then if we think about Susan as the supervisor, Susan's getting information on all of the trends. This is something that marketing people, by the way, love. Bubbling up, what are we hearing from customers? Is there a place where the process breaks down? Are there things that are very easy? Are there things that are not quite as intuitive? When do they need to reach out to us? Or where would we love to have them reach out to us? And it also helps Susan kind of keep a real-time pulse on what's happening across the business, and provides dynamic real-time dashboards. So she can even take immediate action and understand, oh, yikes, I think we have a call that's going south. That's something that I need to jump in on, or I need to help coach the agent to get them through that. So now if we look, I want to take that same storyline, but we're going to look at the agent and the supervisor experience. So again, Andy's the agent, Susan is the supervisor, and we're going to look at the components that help enable this, and and how we create that composable environment. So we've, in the same interaction, right? Chris was researching kayaks. He's invited into the web chat. So we have the ability to detect what that customer is doing on that web page, provide that virtual agent invite. It could also be Chris, sending in an SMS inquiry and doing a Q&A back and forth. And we're doing constant analysis with sentiment detection. And then we can see, where do we need to get Chris up to an agent? Now, this is actually something that we've been doing within Avaya, within our own technical service organization for, oh gosh, it might be 10 plus years now, around enabling omni-channel, but then elevating them to an agent, and then transcribing all of those interactions so that we understand, how is that agent handling that customer? Are they following the guidelines that we want? Are customers satisfied? Are there areas of challenge? And make it a closed loop process, so agents can also recommend ways that we can do even better. Now, when we hand this off to Annie, what we're doing ahead is we're looking at the attributes that we need. So what are the attributes of the customer, Chris? So in this case, Chris is an existing customer. We've got situational context, and we have the context for Annie as an agent and Annie's attributes. So it might be, and maybe Annie's great with customer retention, because Chris might be an existing customer, but he hasn't bought from us in a really long time, and metrics are telling us that maybe we're at risk of losing him. Annie gets templated responses. She's got a composable workspace with a single pane of glass. Those quick responses help ensure policies and procedures are followed. And she's got a very rich digital library with approved and authorized rich media. And then we think about being able to elevate that to a voice call. We're now still providing that kind of AI guidance to Annie, so she can get in the moment cues, guidance, upsell offers. So maybe with the questions that Chris is asking, instead of having Annie kind of search through, right? I'm going to look this tab, this tab, this tab. I'm trying to find the information that I need. We can utilize knowledge management and other systems and be able to bring up that context so that Annie can be provide a much better interaction and start to finish purchase for Chris. And then for Susan and for the company, we're able to provide actionable insights around marketing trends, customer trends, call recordings, and provide notifications if we need immediate action. Are there areas that are in trouble? And then even consider it in today's mode, so many agents are remote, and supervisors can feel like, I used to be able to look across the room and walk up and down the aisles. And now today, so many agent teams are working from home and working all around the globe. Being able to get that kind of detail in reporting and detailed insight becomes huge for the business and huge for the contact center. There's also a big degree of agent fairness. By the way, agents know who is and who isn't doing a good job if they've worked with each other kind of side by side. And the more that we're looking at the right metrics and the right details, we're helping to enable the business on their goals. If we start to look at some of the components inside that journey, and guys, we're just scratching the surface here, because there's so many different areas that we could touch on. We could spend tons of time just on each of these components. And there's even more, there's many more beyond this when we talk about AI. So natural language self-service, you're letting the customer have their choice of engagement. So we can utilize self-service, whether it's voice, it's chat, it's SMS, but you want to do this in a way that doesn't feel like it's a giant brick wall that you put up, that people are just going zero, agent, 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 agent. Make it easy. You always have the ability to get out and get an agent, because we don't want people feeling like they're frustrated, but be able to say, how can I help you? And here's several different examples. It just can change around that whole dynamic. And then when you're getting them to the right resource, it's finally like a weight is lifted off their shoulders. They were so ready to have to explain their life story all over again, kind of leading into attribute routing. When we're delivering it to the right resource, we're helping to better match that customer to that employee or that caregiver or that financial advisor. We're utilizing your business rules and context. And you can define how employees work. If someone's handling SMS and chat, right, they might be handling multiple interactions at the same time. They might get a voice call on top. You probably wouldn't have them handle multiple voice calls at any one time and feel like they're trying to juggle everybody. But it's really about tuning this according to your business needs. And then we think about the composable desktop. And the desktop experience is incredibly adaptable, incredibly easy to extend and develop different widgets. One of our largest customers on the tech support side, we did a training session for them a couple hours one morning, and by that afternoon they were already creating their own widgets. In their case, they had previously had another vendor. They were doing screen pop with Salesforce. They would get delivery of the call. It could take up to 30 seconds to get the screen pop in this other scenario. We showed them what we could do with our desktop and composable widgets. It changed that whole dynamic. So they created a widget around kind of specific Salesforce integration and context they wanted to show the agents in the moment upon delivery. They also had a big challenge with transfers. And so on that tech support side, the customer might say, well, this is what I'm doing, and this is what I'm working on. This is what I found. Okay, I got it. All right, I think I need to get you to this team. And you want to know where the knowledge, the real expertise lied, the knowledge base? It was in the agents' heads. So some agents were fantastic at it, and some customers would just be kind of floating around the environment. So instead, they created a widget around transfers. We take the data that we know from Salesforce. They do a couple little drop downs. Boom, off they go, so that we're getting them to the right resource the first time, and giving the agent all the information that they need in a handy desktop. Around customer journey, being able to share with employees what customers have done. So I get that call, so I get that chat from Chris. I can see how he's interacted with us in different ways. Has he, did he call yesterday, right? Did he send an email last week, right? What are the different touch points? And then we can also mine that data from an analytics point of view. And we can sort that customer journey based upon category, based upon time, channel, right? So maybe a particular group might I might say, I only care about this point, and it's a quick tap to sort it as I'd like. But think throughout. Instead of getting to an employee and I start asking them all over again what they need, what they're trying to do, I'm being adept at that interaction, because you're giving me everything I need at my fingertips. With conversational AI, I started commenting that When Annie, the agent, is talking to Chris, the customer, she could be focused and listening, and engaged in that conversation, instead of spending lots of time trying to, annotate and take notes on the call and navigate and jump around different screens. So what we're doing is we're utilizing machine learning. And as we go through the discussion, we're understanding the intent and we're providing that to the agent desktop. We're then embedding that into the CRM record, and we're providing a real-time dashboard for the supervisor. And for the supervisor or management, we can bubble up with the things that are urgent or most important. We can also provide suggestions to the agent depending on what's happening. Now, we've got a stat here, reducing employee after call work by up to 65%. Let me explain this for a second. So when an agent finishes up with an interaction, they have, they're putting their notes into the CRM record. And that it might take 30 seconds for some companies. For some, it takes up to 2 minutes to add in all of the notes and all of the details. That is lost time. Instead, if we have that transcription and we're going to put that into the CRM record, we've just eliminated the extra time that would take. So the agent might be clicking on a couple of items, right? Updating something in the CRM record, and we're done. They're now available for the next work item. And I'll talk about this around one of our very large BPO, business processing outsourcers, large contact center outsourcer customers, and how they're using it. So sample customer stories. So the first is a large auto manufacturer, and in this case, think of that front door with self-service. But what they were doing is they're enhancing the driver navigation experience with improved user services. So we're using conversational speech to give them access to everything from directions to emergency assistance to where's the closest restaurant, where's the closest gas station, and what's their price. What they found is it improved the navigation accuracy. Drivers love it. Imagine saying that drivers love to utilize automated self-service, right? It's just like using Siri. It's just like using Alexa, but they're using it in their car, and it's also significantly improved their Net Promoter Score, and it's helping show continuous improvement there. If we look at another example, this is a global BPO, so a contact center outsourcer, and they're one of the world's largest BPOs. They operate in 16 countries. They found a 65% reduction in after call work. They're doing 100% call transcription. They're also able to evaluate the language and the speech inflections, and they can get details about, what is this person's, attitude, their emotion, what's the sentiment look like, and it's really lowered their cost. We've helped them also move from a very heavy capital expenditure model to an OpEx model. One thing that's kind of interesting. So someone who had joined, I think is from Osaka, and apologies if I pronounced that improperly.
Oaxaca.
Oaxaca. Thank you so much.
There are a couple of questions after you make this point. I want to get those.
And so one of their very large locations is in Mexico City, and they've got agents who are speaking English to customers, but it's not English it may not be English as their first language. So the transcription is actually helping them gather all of the information and be able to be very focused and be very attentive on that call, and sometimes get things that they might they might miss outwardly.
Great. Thank you. Allison Smith asks, can the platform measure the emotional metrics of the customer, like such as, if they might be escalating negatively?
Yes, yes. In fact, Allison, great question. So if you're going to be attending Voice 22, we'll show you this in the booth. So if something starts to go negative, you can assign different points for different types of issues and concerns. And you'll see it go, we'll see that it's a negative sentiment. The agent can be told, we're also going negative here. So it might be that the agent is not being empathetic to the customer. The customer sharing, here's my challenge, and the agent is really not listening in full. And then they might even be saying, you know what, can you escalate me to a supervisor? Guess how often do you think agents say, oh, I'm sorry, a supervisor isn't available right now? We can listen for those words and then be able to ping a supervisor or even gamify and then tell the agent that they'll get extra points if they bring a supervisor in to this conversation. So absolutely, and I'd love to show you more details in some of our demonstrations.
Great. Another question. Thank you, Carolyn. Ennis asks, what are the languages supported?
There's 128 languages around. There's 128 languages around AI, around chat, around SMS, and around natural language engagement. When we go to the full transcription, we're more limited in those languages. We can transcribe, but when we're doing the intent, you're using machine, and so the intent of what they're going to say in French is going to be different than like what we're going to infer in English. So this global BPO, they're doing this 100% for English. I can give you follow-up on what we're doing around Spanish and some of the other core languages, but it's much further ahead when we talk about the self-service side versus the transcription side.
Thank you, Carolyn. Go ahead. That's the two questions I have for right now. So go ahead and
okay.
You can move on.
I was worried that I was at an earlier point in slides that I was going too slow, so I started.
Okay, great.
Accelerating a little bit. So I'm actually towards the wrap-up slide.
Awesome.
So we could open this up for more, for more in-depth questions. Happy to go there, or even provide any other, white papers or materials you guys would like.
That's fantastic. We really appreciate it. Well, listen, I'm going to then ask folks, is there anything on your mind while we've got Carolyn here? Any questions that come to mind? Anything that pops in your brain? Now's the time to ask. Otherwise, we are going to take this recording. We'll put it on our YouTube channel. We'll share it. We'll share the link with you all via email. We'll also let Carolyn have the link to utilize at Avaya. And looks like you're getting some nice praises on the chat there. Thank you so much.
Good.
Thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll stay on here.
One more item, just so we're clear, because I commented on integrating in a very open environment, right? CRM applications, electronic health records, Epic, etc. That also includes things like knowledge management databases, other AI components you might have, because when you get into different sectors, they can have very unique solutions that they want to bring to bear. So we make that API framework very easy to utilize, very composable. Like no one can be everything, right? Start to finish. We're helping to orchestrate all those scenarios. One thing I didn't get into was When you think of AI, you could even utilize AI to gather customer details. So if a customer, right, it might be, what's my credit card information, right, my PCI data. Maybe we don't want to share that with the agent. We'll send the customer an SMS link. We'll let them take a picture of let them scan their driver's license front and back and their credit card. We don't store the information. We verify it. We tell the agent that it's verified. They don't need to get all of those details, right? You can map whatever you want. And even with agents, we've got so many agents remote. There is an issue today where a single agent might actually have jobs with 10 different companies, and they're farming those out to people.
Right.
We could use AI and facial rec, and the agent doesn't log in with single sign-on. They've got single sign-on and their face rec.
Right.
It's really the agent. And while they're working, is there anybody standing behind me looking over my shoulder at that secure data? So those are little things that we could get into in much more depth.
Well, it seems like a great topic for a future presentation, and it really just, the possibilities seem endless. Conversational AI has come so far in the last decade, and the next decade it looks very promising for organizations that want to leverage AI to get ahead. And Carolyn, thank you so much for everything you shared today. This has been fantastic. And again, we will be sharing this recording with everybody. That said, Carolyn, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, thank you so much. Really appreciate the opportunity. It's so great to meet you, Peter, and you, Jamie, and look forward to seeing you guys in October.